Hello guys and welcome to another video. So this is gonna be my December wrap up and right now it's December 5th and so far I have only read one little tiny thing and also 4 days of a huge fanfic. But what have I read so far besides fanfic? I hear you asking. Well, it's a little manga known as Go For It Nakamura. You probably know this meme, this fan art format, which I love. This is kind of like a compilation or small chapters in this guy's, Nakamura's life, and how his life progresses around his crush, Hirome, I think, this guy over here. And he is a complete simp, head over heels for someone that at the beginning of the story he hasn't talked about all year, but they're classmates. So all throughout the story he tries to keep finding ways to interact with him and to become friends so that he can then crush on him and try to be something more. But I love that concept, that before doing anything else, this guy was just like, I want to be his friend. I just want to be around him and soak up all his goodness. And this was hilarious. When I read it yesterday, I was like, I don't know why I put this off so long, because this is like one of my favorite manga of the year and definitely my favorite standalone manga ever. Also the only one I've read, but it was very good and I would recommend this to anyone. The next book I read this month was I'm Glad My Mom Died by Janet McCurdy. You might recognize her picture from playing Sam in the iconic show iCarly from Nickelodeon. So Janet McCurdy actually started acting around 6 years old, and it's something that she never wanted to do herself. It was something that her mom always wanted her to do. She was living her dreams vicariously through her daughter. And so she kept acting all of her life to make her mom happy and to help her family financially. This book is a deep dive through all of her life, and we get to see everything that's been going on with her since she was born up until a couple of months before she started writing this book. And it's a hell of a ride. It's written by her and also narrated by her in the audiobook. I have to say this should come with a lot of trigger warnings because it mentions a lot of hard topics, but it doesn't only mention them, it describes them in vivid detail. It talks about body dysmorphia, anorexia, bulimia, abusive parents, hugely narcissistic parents, and any kind of abuse that can exist in a family dynamic. It's in there. It also has alcohol and substance abuse. That being said, it's a fascinating read, probably one of the best books I've read this year. Not my favorite because it was so dark and so heavy. Through all of it, I just kept forgetting that this was an autobiography. All of this actually happened. And I think my mind was just rationalizing all the bad things that she had to go through, saying, no, it's happening to someone who doesn't exist. It's a fictional character, but no, it's an actual person. So if you have ever heard of iCarly, if you're interested in child celebrities or anything like that, I do suggest you pick this up. It left a sour taste in my mouth just because of the way society is, but I honestly wish the best for Janet McCurdy in the future, and I hope things start to go better for her. Before we get to the next read of the month, I have to share with you that a company called Simf reached out to me and wanted to give me a discount for you guys. This is an eyewear and glasses company, and they sent me two to try out. We have these frames. I think I looked quite stunning in these. And we also have these, which are, if you can believe it, even bigger. So if you're interested in getting glasses online for a pretty good price, go click the link down below. I have it in my description box, and I also have a special discount code for you guys. It allows you to get frames for 50% off and lenses for 10% off. The code is CeliaL4, so go do that if you wear glasses or even if you just want protection, blue light protection for your computer or phone screen. Go do that. I have the link down below for you guys. Let's keep going. After that, I picked up You Will Get Through This Night by Daniel Howell, who you might recognize from the YouTube channel Dan Is Not On Fire. And I also picked up the audiobook for this. So it's my second audiobook of the month and also my second nonfiction book of the month/year. I don't know, I just wanted to keep riding that nonfiction wave. It ended after this, but it was a nice ride while it lasted. In case you don't know, Dan Howell, or Dan Is Not On Fire, has been a YouTuber, a very prominent, very popular YouTuber over the last decade. This book is not so much an autobiography, it's more of a self-help book, like a guide or a toolkit to deal with things yourself while you go through life. And it was very interesting. I didn't know what to expect coming into this. I have followed Dan for several years and I love his content, so I wanted to know more about him. And when I picked this up, I thought it might be about him, but it wasn't. It was about mental health in general, how we see it as a society, and certain exercises, tips, and tricks that we can use in our favor in order to better our own mental health. And then while he was talking about general mental health, he did talk about his own experiences with it and his own experience with depression, for example. I found this book very helpful, especially the little tips and tricks that he had in between, like every couple of chapters. I like the breathing tricks, I like the tricks to go to sleep. I've been implementing those into my life and they're nice. If you are interested at all in Dan Howell or mental health, I think this is a very good book. It covers all of the bases. It's not a substitute for therapy, but it's definitely good if you are like on the okay spectrum. Also, the audiobook had like 30 minutes of extra content. Some of that was ASMR, which was mildly uncomfortable, but I liked the Q&A and everything else, so good job, Dan. I liked it. So after reading 2 nonfiction books back to back, I desperately needed to get back into fiction, and I was feeling a bit down, a bit nostalgic, and they just published the date for Shadow and Bone Season 2, so I just had to pick up Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This is the second time I reread this book series in the past 2 years. I remember I have a video for it in early 2021. So very back to back, but I still loved it. The audiobook is incredible. It's amazing. It's mystery, it's romance, it's found family, it's everything you could want. It's a heist and it's a group of misfits. So, and it has magic as well. What else could you need? Speaking of that video, I have been hacked recently and I fear the worst, that I might never get my channel back. So go read Six of Crows before season 2 of Shadow and Bone comes out. It's not necessary, but you'll thank me. Before we get to the next read of the month, I have to say something really obvious. I got my channel back. I was hacked, but I got my channel back within a week. It was a crazy week. I was super sad and super stressed and anxious throughout all of it, but I got through it. So now go check out my second channel that I created. It's called Celia a Secas. So the next book I read this month was Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. Of course, I had to read this after reading Six of Crows. It's impossible to not pick it up. When I read Six of Crows for the first time, 2016, this book didn't exist back then. I don't know how long I had to wait for this. I think maybe not even a year, like a couple of months, but it was so hard. I'm so glad I didn't have to wait any longer, because Six of Crows leaves you on the worst, and by worst I mean the best cliffhanger ever, and you need to read this book immediately afterwards. Even having read Six of Crows like 3 to 4 times by now, I always pick this one afterwards because you just need to continue reading. Having read this book multiple times, I have to say it holds up. Obviously, Six of Crows is by far the superior book in the duology. That does not mean that this is by any means a bad book. It's just not as incredibly good as Six of Crows. I mean, no other book is. Every time I read it, I'm more like meh towards Jesper and Wylan, just because they have the least development and definitely the least backstory, but I still love them and I'm so looking forward to seeing them together in the show. I really like Matthias and Nina, even though just Kanesh is still the superior ship to what? To everything. There, I said it. It's just so good. The next book I read this month wasn't actually a book, it was another webtoon, like I think in October or November. This time it was recommended by my cousin, and it's one called Not So Shoujo Love Story. It's a bit of a play on the shoujo love romance trope, and it's a big parody of that genre, and instead of being between a girl and a guy, which is the most common in shoujo, it's between 2 girls. The protagonist is a girl who is kind of like a tomboy who thinks she is in love with the most handsome and popular guy in school, who is actually just probably an alien with a chin that is like up to here and it's extremely pointy. The actual love interest for the show is another girl who the tomboy protagonist sees as a love rival instead of like a love interest. It's very funny. It's a very fun take and very interesting and creative take on the trope, and visually it's very interesting and it plays on all of the shoujo tropes that you know. So if you like shoujo or if you like parodies, I would highly suggest this. I think it's very well drawn and very well written. So thank you for the recommendation, Lucia. So on the last week of December, I was very conflicted on what to choose as my last read of the year until I found this waiting for me at my doorstep. This is Home to the Wild by Francesca McMahon, or Fran, as you might know them from their channel A Healthy Dose of Fran. This is their debut novel, and it follows our protagonist, this little girl who gets left alone in the woods and is found by a pack of wolves who then proceed to raise her. If you're at all interested in wolves and their family dynamics, this is a very good book for that because it explains it very well, and it's a very interesting deep dive into what would happen if a human was left alone to be raised by wolves. This book is truly like nothing I've read before, and the writing was very good, and it left off the story in such a way that you're really waiting to pick up the next book because it is going to have a sequel, and the sequel is possibly going to have an enemies to lovers, or at least a forbidden romance aspect to it. So I am intrigued, to say the least. So Fran, congratulations for getting your book published and for doing such a great job at it. So please leave a like if you like this video. Let me know in the comments down below what was your favorite book of the year and what was your least favorite book of the year. Subscribe if you haven't already and click that bell button so you get notifications every time I post a new video. I post videos just like this every single Friday, and I guess I'll see you guys next time. Bye! The thumbnail is clearly a lie. I didn't read this many books, but I felt like clickbaiting this month, so what a way to end the year. Or start the year. Happy 2023!